stage in which the cunning end becomes active resistance. Because we are determined that our voices will be heard and our bodies will be heard.
That was Dave Dellinger in 1967. Over 30 years later, as the U.S. went to war in October 2001, artists and activists on the front lines of social change gathered in Vermont for a celebration. Together they created this audio documentary on Dave's life and times, featuring songs, poetry, historic recordings, dramatic recreations, and remarks by many of Dave's friends and some special guests. Welcome to Nonviolent Warriors, Dave Dellinger and the Power of the People.
If you want to sing along, you can. Want to try it? I'm going down that road feeling bad. I'm going down that road feeling bad. I'm going down that road feeling bad. Lord, Lord, I ain't going to be treated this way. I'm going where those chilly winds don't blow. I'm going where those chilly winds don't blow. I'm going where those chilly winds don't blow. Lord, Lord, I ain't going to be treated this way. I'm spending my nights at the flop house. I'm spending my days on the street. I look for some work, but I find none. Now, how is a young one to eat? You know what? Try it. Soup, soup. They give us a bowl of soup. Soup, soup. They give us a bowl of soup. I went out to fight for my country. I went out to bleed and to die. When I asked for some help from my country, this was my country's reply. Let me hear you now. They gave us a bowl of soup, soup, soup. They gave us a bowl of soup. Come all of you good workers, good news to you I'll tell of how the good old Union is coming here to dwell. Tell me, which side are you on? 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 My daddy was a miner and I'm a miner's son. I'll stick with you, fellow workers, till every battle's won. Tell me, which side are you on? 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 Don't listen to the bosses. Don't listen to their lies. Us poor folks haven't got a chance unless we organize. Tell me, which side are you on? 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 Where the Fraser River flows, each fellow worker knows they have bullied and oppressed us, but still our union grows. But we're gonna find a way now, shorter hours and higher pay now, and we're gonna win the day now. where the Fraser River flows. I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night, alive as you and me. Said I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, said he. I never died, said he. In Salt Lake, Joe, they killed you, Joe. They shot you, Joe, said I. Takes more than guns to kill a man, says Joe. I didn't die, says Joe. I didn't die. And standing there, as big as life, and smiling with his eyes, what the copper bosses could never kill, went on to organize, went on to organize. I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night, alive as you and me. Says I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, said he. I never died, said he.
Along with Dave, Howard Zinn has provided leadership, support, and vision for all of the generations that are here tonight and for those to come. His People's History of the United States has sold over 1 million copies. He will continue to inspire young and old, and his work is now on the front lines with activists across the country. Perhaps one thing you may not know about Howard is that he's also a playwright. He has a play called Emma and another called Marks in Soho. It is very hard to do anything but just give the warmest applause for Howard Zinn. Please welcome him.
Thank you. I've been given 5 minutes to to explain my lifelong relationship with Dave and Elizabeth. So I'll just race you through our lives. Okay? I first heard about Dave in I guess early 1960s. Staughton Lynd told me about him. Staughton was my colleague at Spelman College in Atlanta, and Staughton kept talking about this guy, Dave Dellinger, editor of Liberation magazine, and he talked about him with such reverence. Later on, I learned that Dave does not want to be talked about with reverence. But, you know. And then I actually met Dave for the first time in Hiroshima. We were both part of the American delegation in that, you know, what they do every August 6th and 9th in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and there was Dave, and the Japanese looked upon him, I could see, with awe. And then I learned Dave doesn't want to be looked upon with awe, you know. And then we went up to Tokyo and we demonstrated together, we marched together against the war, and we went to a big dinner in Tokyo, sponsored by the Beharan, the Japanese movement against the war in Vietnam, and there was this great, beautiful, very lavish dinner, even more lavish than this dinner. And and at the end of the dinner, and everybody was dressed up, except Dave. But what I remember is at the end of the dinner, I was sitting next to Dave, and we all stood up and held hands and sang two songs, the Japanese and the Americans, "We Shall Overcome" and "The Internationale." So, anyway, it was a nice moment. But I still have that picture in my mind of looking at the newspaper and seeing that first demonstration in Washington against the war, where wasn't it called the Congress of Unrepresented People, right? Do you remember that? Yeah. And there was that magnificent picture of Dave and Staughton Lynd and Bob Moses, all friends from the South and from the movement, and the three of them marching at the head of this line, splattered with red paint and proud of it, you see. So, yeah. And then Dave and I, this is what it's all about. Dave and I. Forget about Dave. It's Dave and I. Yeah. And but you're gonna see all that history in between. So there's no point. But the Gulf War, anti-war meeting at Harvard against the Gulf War, and there Dave and I on the same platform, and we realized as we were on the same platform that in World War II, I had been a bombardier in the Air Force, and Dave had been in jail. And now here we were, together on the same platform, protesting against the Gulf War. And, well, Dave has been an inspiration. I don't want to be speaking of him with too much reverence or awe, but there he has been, and there's no moment better than now, to remember what Dave has stood for and to fight for it together, all of us, for peace and justice. It's a good moment.
For Dave, life began in Wakefield, Massachusetts, a suburb of Boston. His dad was a well-connected Republican lawyer and a friend of the state's governor, one Calvin Coolidge, a native Vermonter, by the way, who, of course, went on to become president. One of his grandmothers was a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution. His father's ancestors can be traced back to pre-revolutionary North Carolina. In fact, Benjamin Franklin was an ancestor by way of one of Franklin's grandnephews and a full-blooded Cherokee Indian. This is quite a pedigree for an American radical. By the mid-1930s, it looked like Dave was on a fast track to a career in law or government. But he already saw a different direction. He had been picking up ideas. Oh, and you know how dangerous ideas can be. Ideas from philosophy and economics, from radical Christians and college friends. Gandhi in India, the campaigns of Gandhi were a lure, an inspiration to Dave. And also by getting to know his fellow workers in a summer job in a Maine factory. In his autobiography, From Jail to Yale, or From Yale to Jail, did I get that backward, Dave? Yale to jail, that makes... Dave recounts an incident at Yale that changed his life. It happened after a football game between Yale and Georgia. Tensions between the Yale students and